Hello everyone, my name is Rosa Martinez and my presentation will be on traumatic brain injuries and gender. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, a traumatic brain injury occurs when there is a sudden blow, bump, jolt, or penetrating injury to the head that causes a disruption to the regular function of the brain. The effects vary from being mild to severe, which can lead to lifelong disabilities. This means that there can either be brief or long-term effects on the way our brain processes thinking, sensations, language, and emotions. TBIs can lead to epilepsy and increase your risk for neurological conditions such as Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. Every year, the CDC estimates there are about 1.7 million people who suffer from a traumatic brain injury. Of those, 52,000 will die, 275,000 will be hospitalized, and 1.4 million will make emergency department visits because of a traumatic brain injury. In the years 2001 through 2010, the rates of traumatic brain injury emergency department visits increased by 70%, and hospitalizations increased by 11%. However, there is a positive note, since the death rates have decreased by 7%. I think this means that there is more awareness towards traumatic brain injuries. According to the CDC, the leading causes of traumatic brain injuries from 2006 to 2010 were the following. 4.5% are attributed to falls, which usually affect the youngest and oldest age groups the most. Unintentional blunt trauma is second, being responsible for 15.5% of traumatic brain injuries. The third leading cause are motor vehicle accidents, which account for 14.3%. The fourth leading cause for traumatic brain injuries are assaults, which account for 10.7%, while 19% of traumatic brain injuries occur from unknown or other causes. The risk factors for having a TBI include being male, being of the age groups 0 to 4, 15 to 19, and over 65 years of age. According to the CDC, a traumatic brain injury is 3 times more likely to cause death in males than females. Males also have higher rates of hospitalization and emergency department visits related to traumatic brain injuries. About 500,000 of the emergency department visits related to traumatic brain injuries are made by children between the ages 0 to 14. So why are men more likely to have traumatic brain injuries than women? Unfortunately, there is tons of research and evidence that shows the rates are much higher for men, but there isn't much research as to why men are more likely to suffer from traumatic brain injuries. I looked up which occupations, sports, and activities contribute the most based on the information I found in the CDC statistics. With that information, I concluded that men are more likely to work in occupations that tend to have higher rates of traumatic brain injuries. They are also more involved in contact sports and tend to have higher rates of physical assaults. Now, based on what we have learned this semester, I think it is safe to say that society has played a big role in men taking these risks at higher rates than women. We tell boys from a young age to be tough, to be manly and masculine, and many engage in these activities to prove their masculinity. A lot of times when they are hurt, we just tell them to suck it up and be a man. A lot of times this can lead to men not getting treated for traumatic brain injuries and just sucking it up, as they have always been told. Unfortunately, gender does have a negative effect on the recovery process. Studies and research have been found that show men are less likely to see the new deficits they have after a traumatic brain injury. Women are more likely to agree with family on the level of help they need after a traumatic brain injury. I have witnessed this firsthand at the skilled nursing facility I have worked at for the past 6 years. The elderly patients we have are more stubborn on letting the staff help with their daily tasks and are less likely to ask for assistance even when they know they need it. The CDC has an intervention site that focuses on preventing children and teenagers from getting traumatic brain injuries. It is full of information and resources for parents, youth sports organizations, school sports organizations, schools, medical professionals, and social media. It is very educational and a good source to get more understanding on the subject. It does target an important population that suffers from TBIs. However, it does not address how to prevent or how to keep boys from getting more traumatic brain injuries. Its target audience is too general, especially when you see how the rates affect males so much more than females. I think a part of the site should be specifically reserved to what can be done to lower the rates of traumatic brain injuries among males. What can parents, schools, sports do to change the gender roles that have led to the unproportional higher rates of traumatic brain injury among males? There needs to be more research done to understand why and how we can prevent the higher rates of traumatic brain injuries that are affecting the male population. These are the references I used for my final presentation. Thank you.